Hello and welcome to the Bravas Luxury Living Podcast. On the Luxury Living Podcast, we explore ideas and themes that are all about how to build a luxury home. If this is the first time you're finding us here at the Luxury Living Podcast, please like and share this with other people. Smash the button, as they say, so you can find other podcasts as we make them available. But please let other people in your network know, because we'd really love to grow this community. I do these podcasts with Keith Brown. Keith, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you to you as well.
Exciting 2022. And for the start of 2022, we're going to do one of the subjects we get asked a lot, which is around control systems and the importance. It's a thing that I think our clients need to get their brains around, don't you think?
Yeah, it is. I think they sound confusing, but really the goal is to make life simpler, to make things easier, to give them just one thing to interact with, and how they do that is probably not something they completely need to wrap their minds around. It's just the why, and I think we'll kind of cover that today.
Perfect. Well, we have with us two of the crack Bravas team to talk about some of these issues. From our Boca team, we have Jason. Jason, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Nigel. Good to see you.
And from our Austin team, Caleb. Hey, Caleb.
Hey, Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you. Well, listen, I'm gonna start quite a high level and get your thoughts. One of the things I think that differentiates, a home that we're focused on from maybe just someone who buys stuff at Home Depot is this idea of a whole home control system. So, Jason, I know in Boca you spend a lot of time, helping clients move into some fabulous hotels. How do you describe to them the importance of a sort of home automation control system?
Well, as you mentioned, they're large luxury homes, so there's many rooms, many different devices and features in each room, from automated lighting to automated shades to music and televisions. And we pretty much explain that a single way to control their home, both from home and on the road, whether it be their iPhone or a touch panel on the wall or a remote, to have a consistent user interface, no matter what you're controlling, is really the big benefit. So it's comfort and it's convenience for them to master their universe.
What about you, Caleb? How do you explain this to people?
That's a great question that I get asked, at almost every single appointment, every single time that I engage with a customer. And I think it's all about, tying all of these disparate systems in the home together so that customers can easily make sense of how to interact with the technology in their house, right? So you can have, smart devices all over the house, but do those devices, communicate with one another, and what actually makes, life easier versus, more complicated and more of a hassle than what most people are willing to take on.
So, Keith, when you're talking to designers, builders, and people who are helping design these and build these for our clients, how do you describe that? The need for the control system, that is.
Yeah, one, it's understanding what their clients want to get out of the house they're building. So if they have a really simple home, maybe they do just want a point solution if they only needed to do one thing. But for the most part, our clients are investing in a home that's, you know, slightly better than average at the very least. They're working with an architect and an interior designer because they want it to function really well. They want it to do a lot of things that make it easier to live in. And when we use a control system, that's really our goal, is it's to take all of these individual things, all of these powerful things that these individual devices can do, but make it easy for them to use and easy for those things to work together. So the client is spending as little time as possible interacting with the technology and more time just enjoying it.
One of the things, Jason, I've noticed, when I've looked around some of the homes your team have worked on, is what you don't see is 50 remote controls, 50 apps, 50 different internet. You talked about some of this, but I really want to narrow down on some of the features that are critical to people making a decision around a control system. If someone said, what would be the 3 or 4 things you would look for, what would you look for in a good control system?
Well, I think the number one thing is reliability. Certainly, we all know that technology is great when it works, but it's painful when it doesn't. So we focus on products and control systems that we are both familiar with and that we know how to make them be successful each and every time. That's number one. The second is really the scale. of the home. Some vendors build systems for commercial applications and yachts and even college dorms or football stadiums. Those control systems are a little bit more powerful than ones that are built for 4 to 6 bedroom homes, which are still a large home. So part of it's scale, and then of course it's about the quality and experience of the environment. So this stuff has to look decent too. We want to hide a lot of the complications of technology. We want a very clean wall, a very clean user interface where it's just very simple to interact with, not 10 switches on a wall, but one switch with finely detailed labels of what those buttons are going to do. So it comes down to the user experience that makes it easy to live in, just like Keith was saying.
So, Caleb, what about you? What are some of the critical features you think clients should look for in a home automation system?
Yeah, so I would echo what Jason said. I think, reliability is key, but this is where I think it's important to talk through with the client and understand, how they're going to live in the space. And very important to also understand, what pain points that they've had in their existing home or in their existing experience, so that we can try and solve those pain points. So I think the user interface is key in terms of simplifying it. Jason made the comment about, instead of having a bank of 4 or 5 switches in the wall that nobody remembers which switch does controls which light, to have an elegant keypad on that same wall. I know designers love this idea, and so I think those are top of the list. I'm sure that there's more than a few that I'm forgetting here.
Yeah, I mean, I know for me, I know the Bravas team just did some work in my home, and particularly in our living room, we had a bank of like 6 or 7 switches, and it's now become one. So, Keith, there's a huge design element to getting this right as well, isn't there? It's more than just home automation.
Yeah, there is. I mean, to kind of echo what both Jason and Caleb said, when I talk to clients and especially designers and architects, we would always talk about reliable, intuitive, attractive, and now secure. And for us, reliable and secure are objective, right? It either is or is not reliable, it is or is not secure. But what's intuitive for a client and what looks attractive to them, there is a lot of subjectivity there. And that's one of the reasons we sell a number of different control systems. The same thing that maybe works in my home may not scale to work in a 25,000 square foot home that Jason's building in Boca. At the same time, the systems he's using could work in my home, but they may simply be overkill. And, and on top of that, I might just not enjoy using the system that he sells versus a different brand. So, I mean, I think there is a lot of subjectivity there. That goes beyond just designing something that's good or functional. It also has to work for the way that person wants to live in their home.
And Jason, I want to probe a little bit on this issue of security, because security is a big thing, isn't it? I mean, you're working on multi-million-dollar homes there in Florida, and security means a lot of different things. How is that conversation with your clients?
Yeah, well, it's certainly top of mind. Every home starts with a traditional security system, doors and windows, and sometimes locks. But the more advanced systems that we're deploying now, people want to keep track of their homes when they're both living in the home and when they're not in the home. They want to know if the people that are caring for their home are doing the jobs that they're supposed to do. So they have security cameras throughout the exterior, sometimes part of the interior of the home. But we also introduce features for protection of the home from its own capabilities, like flooding, or there's obviously fire detection and there's burglar detection, but also water detection on flowing water locations. Our typical feature will put a water valve that automatically shuts off the water to the home if it detects an abnormal flow, which is what's typically called a leak. So it's actually protecting the home from itself and from external factors.
Caleb, one of the questions I always have around simplicity is the problem I always have with universal remote controls. Every time I've used a universal remote control, it's actually end up being more complicated than the separate controls of the different handsets. When you're putting a whole home system in, should people be concerned that it's actually going to be more complicated to operate, than the system done by separate apps or separate remotes?
Yeah, that's a great question, Nigel. What, the comment that we typically hear, that I typically hear is from the husband in the home that is the only one that knows how to turn on the media room system because there's five remotes and there's an order that nobody understands except for him. And so what we see with the introduction of a well-designed control system is that anybody in the family is able to operate by just pressing either a single button or potentially two buttons, watch TV or watch movie, and in doing so are able to turn on the projector, turn on the receiver, turn on the amplifier, turn on the TV, adjust the volume, change the channel, all with simple controls from a single remote. And I think that's key, Nigel, just in being able to pick up a single remote. You're not, there's no guesswork, right? If you can read the buttons, if you can see the screen, you can control it. So,
And it's more than, I think, Keith, you're probably going to jump in on this, but it's more than that, isn't it? Because it's often the same interface regardless of the device you're using. And I think that's another really important thing.
Yeah, I can build on that point, which is what you see on the screen is going to look a little bit different because maybe it was designed either for a big iPad or a small remote control, but the wording is going to be exactly the same. So if you want to watch TV, you're going to push a button that probably says "Watch TV," not the name of the devices that's turning on. And I think most of the experiences we've had, especially with the modern remotes, because you're right, some of those old universal remotes were impossible to use and they could get themselves messed up where the client didn't know how to fix them. The newer systems that we designed simply don't do that. And most clients' issue with using them is fear that it's going to be like their past experience. My mother-in-law comes over to the house all the time and says, "Oh, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to use your system." And every time I just hand her the remote and she goes, "Oh yeah, I just push the button that says watch TV and then I can watch TV." So I think for the most part, it's just kind of this holdover fear of really bad past experiences where the new stuff is just so simple to use and is designed around the people that use it.
Okay, so there are sort of four key players in this market: Savant, Crestron, Elan, and Control 4. And we as a Bravas company sell and service and support all four. And we love all our children equally. So we're not going to pick on one child. And but I do think it's worth for the audience talking a little bit about some of the things that make some of them different. And Jason, I'm gonna start with you because I know one of the things you guys do is some amazing Crestron systems. So what is it that attracted you to the Crestron systems?
Well, certainly, client preference leads every decision. So there's a brand that's had success for as many years as Crestron. It's been in the business over 20 years. A lot of people understand and recognize that as a brand of product. The other thing that, from a technical perspective, we like are two things. One, their catalog of solutions is so broad that we literally can't say no to a request. There's a product or a feature that can do everything that a client may want to do because they service, again, commercial and other sectors, marine sectors. There's just a widget or a gadget that does something that solves every problem. So it's a very broad catalog. The last thing is really the warranty. They offer a very robust warranty on their home control system, certainly in lighting and shades. They offer a lifetime warranty to the first-time buyer, which is a big distinguisher for somebody that's investing a whole lot of money in a beautiful luxury home.
So Caleb, what are you mostly installing?
we do more Control 4 and Savant here at our DFW location. And I think some of the important conversations that come up around those systems involve the user experience as well as budget. Budget is an important conversation on every project. We want to be able to design a system that's affordable for the client that we're interacting with and that meets their needs. So I think both Control 4 and Savant have those options for our customers, along with a great user interface.
Is it unfair, Caleb, to say that Control 4 tends to be the lowest entry point of all these systems?
You know,
Price
that's
wise, at
that's a
least.
great that's a great question, Nigel. I know they've been, very aggressive, and certainly, I think most would agree that they are, by volume, the biggest player on the residential side of what we do. Um, so, from a budgetary standpoint, I would say yes, they have probably the most cost-effective solution to integrate, these systems in the home.
So, Keith, talk a bit about Elan, if you can. What might be some of the strengths of that platform?
Yeah, so Elan is the one that when I first started in this industry, was selling the most, and it's what I have in my current house today. I would say Elan kind of fits in the middle, so it is probably not going to scale to do the largest projects, say what we're doing in Boca. Um, and on the lower end, they don't have like a really super affordable entry level remote, but really in the middle, it lives with this very easy to use, customer friendly option. And so I've sold a lot of Elan and Savant, at the same time. And a lot of clients that end up liking Elan want something really, really simple and straightforward and streamlined. It maybe doesn't look quite as nice as Savant does, but it's going to be really easy to use for somebody that doesn't come into it thinking they want something really modern. Maybe somebody that comes in scared of using technology.
Yeah, and I think anybody thinking about one of these systems has to look at them because they look differently. We don't all want iPhones or Android phones or PCs or Macs, and the difference in the interfaces may be academic to some, but some things just make people feel more comfortable and they like and Jason, it also depends how much you're going to integrate, doesn't it? What devices that matter.
It does, and I think customization is both a blessing and it has been perhaps one of the thorns in the side of the industry in the past. Is with a Crestron interface, we have the ability, like I said, to do anything or program anything, and that's a good thing if you do it well. Um, it's a bad thing if every system that you deploy has something unique that nobody else knows how to support, and that's where some of the strengths that we see in uh, Control 4 and Elan and in Savant as well. They have a lot that comes out of the box in terms of functionality with predefined interfaces that are the same for every customer. So it's easy to support, easy to debug and make sure it's working properly. You start getting into the Crestron realm, well, you have more capability, you have a little more risk attached to it. So we have ways, of course, that we mitigate that, but that's the difference.
So, Caleb, when you doing a lot of Savant and Control 4 in Dallas, as you said, um, if someone said to you, pick one, how would you go about picking which was the right one?
Um, so I think to seek out good advice, a good integration company that can kind of guide and direct you. I think it's also helpful for customers to be able to see the interface, see the app. Savant, I know, has a great app that anybody can download from the App Store and see, what the user interface looks like, and it's got dummy controls and so you can play around with it and imagine how that would function, in your new or newly remodeled home. So I've found that very helpful. Crestron Home, I know, is another one that has an app like that. Control 4, unfortunately, that demo capability on their app went away with the new OS3 software.
No, this is different on all platforms. One of the things I love, Jason, that you demonstrate in the houses is when, what you're doing is not controlling lights, but necessarily creating scenes. One of the things you can do, I know on the Crestron systems that you install, is you can actually allow a client by holding a button down is record a scene. Did I get that right?
That is correct, and it's a programming standard we follow. That the top button on when you enter any room, there's a room that says kitchen scene or dining room scene, and while we've pre-programmed it to we think is a lovely light. Customer can adjust all the lights that make up that room and press and hold that button for 5 seconds, and it'll memorize that scene. So it also decreases their dependency, and I think that's one of the historical misnomers of control systems is that somehow clients are stuck to working. They have to call their integrator to make any adjustments at all, and try to give the customer as much control and customization of the system in a meaningful way without having to place a phone call or to ask for a programming change for that matter. Really enabling them to be again the masters of their universe.
So Keith, the one company that people may be surprised we haven't talked about yet is Lutron. Particularly many of us who live in maybe smaller properties have Lutron shades and Lutron lighting control. How does Lutron, in your mind, fit into this picture?
Yeah, so Lutron is a control system, but it's a little more limited in the sense that it is specifically designed to control lighting and shading, whereas these other control systems are designed to control almost anything you could put in your home. So that's the biggest difference is Lutron essentially works really, really well as a lighting system, just like Sonos would work really, really well as a music system. The power of these systems is taking all of the different technologies in your home and having just one interface. You only have one thing to learn. You don't have to download dozens of apps. You don't have to reimagine how your phone interface is going to look. You just have that one place to go. And when you have that one place to go, that single control system, it also means that all of those different pieces, like your lighting, your shading, your music, your TVs, work together. So I can turn on a TV in my media room and have the lights automatically dim. And it's that kind of power that is why we install control systems.
But Caleb, I can install, Lutron under some of these others. I mean, they work. Some of these will work together, won't they?
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why we really like Lutron is that it's really agnostic to the control system, or it works well as we've experienced with all the control systems that we've used. So it gives customers some flexibility if for whatever reason they decide to change control systems, or if the house is sold. I think the Lutron specifically for lighting and shades that are customized for a specific home and can't necessarily migrate as amplifiers and TVs and other hardware to a different property. They kind of stay with the home. So absolutely.
I want you each to think about a device that might surprise people that you can integrate into one of these home automation platforms. I hope I don't steal anybody's, but I'm going to saw the other day you can integrate your Tesla and your Tesla wall into these things, so you can operate that from the single control panel as well. Okay, who has another one, an interesting one?
I'll start with doors. I guess that maybe isn't that surprising, but your door, your gate to the home, garage door, like all of those things could be integrated so that you can have something like when the garage door opens, the camera on the touch panel in the kitchen shows that view so you can see who's coming and going from the house. So there's a lot of unique things you can do that are somewhat security based, but also just convenience and letting you know what's happening in the house.
No question. I would piggyback on that. The doorbells, you might think of a doorbell as just a single chime in a hallway, but when you have 8 to 20,000 square feet, you need more than that. So we integrate both the camera-based doorbell with the SIP-based phone call, and we can have a gate doorbell or a front doorbell ring phones, chime speakers outdoors by the patio, by the pool. Based on how somebody lives, we can have it chime in an upstairs room, but not the master bedroom. So we can really control where the sound of a doorbell event happens. And that's, again, not something you might think of every day. You think ding dong happens throughout the entire house. It's a lot of square feet and a lot of outdoor area to cover with a single bell.
Caleb, what about you? Anything particularly interesting for you?
I'm really excited to see the technology develop with geofencing, and also the automated control systems knowing and responding based on who's in the room. So this is technology that's available now or developing now. It's largely tied to unique devices, an iPhone, let's say, that obviously knows where you are, not only in the world but where you are in the home, and can cause changes in lighting and music scenes to happen in that room just based on your presence.
One of the other things, Jason, I know is very popular at the moment is to talk about green and ecosystems. Some of the more sophisticated of these platforms also can integrate to help you do some power management. Is that right?
Certainly, they monitor the amount of power that's being consumed by different parts of your home, and they can adjust the temperature, close shades to reduce the heat gain. If certain areas of the home aren't occupied or a certain time of day, if the home is maybe not even occupied for days or weeks, they monitor humidity, which is an important thing to keep the home healthy. Not just green from a energy savings perspective, but also green from a health perspective. Not letting any type of bacteria or something develop in your home because of some humidity event that you don't want. Lots of different devices are coming out around monitoring the health of the home, and that's all around the environment, and that translates to energy as well.
Now, Kelly, there are some devices that we don't necessarily want to integrate with, some of the more maybe consumer things you buy. Um, can you give us a sense as why we might resist some of that?
That's a great question. So I think Jason brought up a great point earlier in the podcast about support. So one of the things that we're dedicated to is being able to support every product that we install, and we found this to be challenging with some of the DIY products for a number of reasons. Many of them don't have dedicated support teams, so it's email support only. So it's difficult to get help on those products for both customers and for integration companies like Bravas as well. And so that's one thing. I would say the other thing is performance and functionality. So certainly, there are different levels of performance for each product, and we want to make sure for our customers that we're delivering products that have a level of performance that we've tested and that we're comfortable with.
Jason, other reasons why people might be more sensitive around some of those home installed devices?
Sure. Well, to use the do-it-yourself terminology that we heard a moment ago, a lot of those products are designed to be quick and easy to install. They don't have the security mindset that the products that we choose and select, and they're not implemented in the same way. So you hear a lot of news stories, and I think you can hardly watch the evening news without seeing what happened on somebody's street with a Ring camera. Those types of devices are broadcasting their content back out to the world. So if your client wants privacy and they also want to know that there's not going to be a universal hack, hackers are going to target largely deployed devices, so they're going to go after something like that platform of a doorbell. Once they have access to it, they have access to everybody's things. So we mentioned it earlier, focusing on the security of deploying these technology-based systems. That's part of what the implementation has to include, is locking down all the devices, applying unique passwords to them, and making sure that they're not broadly accessible by the public.
Yeah, I think there's also just a piece of understanding the business models of those companies. So for your voice assistants, your Amazon or Google-based devices, they are designed to use your information to help them kind of build out their infrastructure. Whereas something designed just for our industry, somebody we've talked to before, Josh AI, they designed a system that does the same thing, but protects all of your data and makes sure it doesn't go anywhere, keeps it in the home or in a really secure cloud. And so I think just understanding like what you're getting for your money, like there's a reason those devices are so cheap. Um, and for clients, especially like the clients Jason's talking about, they're in a 20,000 square foot house. They'll probably pay a small percentage more to protect their data, to protect their net worth, essentially.
Yeah, as one of my friends would always say, if something's cheap or free, remember it's you that is the product in that case. And that's particularly for you of these things. So Keith, if somebody was interested in this technology, how do we show them it? How do we go about giving demos of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, there are a few different ways. So in different areas of the country, we do have demo centers. I know Caleb actually um, has a really beautiful Control 4 system or Control 4 demo center that you can see in Dallas. So we do have the ability to directly demonstrate some of this product in person, just depending on where you are in the country. But we also have access to all of these systems remotely. So we can sit down with someone and get an idea of what's going to work best for them. But honestly, we'll typically, after having a conversation with a client for 15 or 30 minutes, have a rough idea of which of these systems is going to be able to do all of the things they want. And then it's a matter of showing them those options and finding out what they're most comfortable with. It's just kind of a combination of those two things.
And Jason, there are some great demo centers not owned by Bravas, but owned by some of our partners, aren't there?
Yes, we have a Lutron Experience Center here within 15 miles of our shop. We have the Crestron Experience Center at the Design Center of the Americas. I think they have a similar type facility in New York City. And I know Savant recently opened a mansion in Las Vegas that people can travel to and see an amazing implementation of that platform. So I think, the manufacturers and the suppliers like us, we're all positioned in one way or another to show either a spec home, a demo showroom, or go to a manufacturer showroom to really put people's hands and eyes on what we're offering.
Yeah, that house in Vegas is just incredible, and they also actually have an apartment in New York, and it's a very interesting. I mean, the house is an incredible thing. It's worth going to Vegas just to see that house. Caleb, if they came to the DFW place, what would you be able to demo to them?
I think probably one of the easiest ways to pick what level of speakers that are adequate for your home or for your media room. It's helpful to be able to demo a good, a better, and a best, if I can use those performance criteria, Nigel, to describe what that sounds like in your space. And so I've found that to be very helpful for customers just in budgeting and really being able to select something. Whereas I could talk about a good speaker, a better speaker, or the best speaker, and without you being able to hear it, it's would be the same thing as me trying to describe a luxury car to you without giving you the chance to test drive it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So last question for each of us. You're trapped in the elevator or in the I guess we may not get into elevators, not very safe at the moment, but you're trapped with the client, and in 1 minute they say to you, remind me, why do I need a control system again? What's the 30-second summary for you of the importance of all the stuff we've been talking about? Jason, do you have one?
Yeah, we offer a comfort, convenience, and secure way for you to enjoy your home more easily, and certainly to experience your life in the way that you want to experience it.
Caleb, how about you?
Uh, I think, Nigel, it's all about simple, right? So we talked about cleaning up the 5 remotes on the coffee table, and I think that example resonates with anybody or everybody, right? They've had that experience. They've seen the 5 remotes on the coffee table, and a guest comes and they have no idea how to operate the system. So you know how easy is it if we consolidate that into one single application or one single remote?
Okay, Keith, so I'll give you the last word. You're often talking to builders, designers, architects. What's your message to them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to understand that even if we don't want it to be, a modern home is going to be smart. Like it's going to have technology in it. What we're doing is giving the client the ability to have that technology, but make it easy to use. So they're just not spending much time interacting with it. Like they should not have to dig out a remote, walk over to the wall, um, pull out their phone and unlock it to get their shades to open in the morning. That should be something that just happens real easily. And those are the kind of experiences we're trying to introduce to them.
I don't know who it was, but someone said the best technology becomes invisible. And I know badly installed home technology is very visible. So I know when you guys do it really well, it becomes invisible to our clients. They just live and love their home. So listen, to all of you, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us. It was a great conversation, and we'll see what questions we get from the audience, and we may do another deep dive later. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Nigel.
you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.